In 2023, when not yet a year had passed since Ohev Shalom consolidated with Beth Shalom, Joe Levine, Barb Strauss, and I gathered together and arranged for videotaping of Ohev congregants and Ohev rabbis so that we could capture some memories of our 100-plus year past. Our first gathering was on March 12, 2023 at my home. We started by remembering how Meredith got the inspiration for Kosher Fest, and from there continued by remembering details of this signature event, plus so many other programs, as well as our devoted and lovable congregants, our inspiring rabbis, and lots of anecdotes that convey, I believe, how we continued to be the little congregation that could. We shared a lot of laughter that day. I hope you can share in the laughter as you watch this video. The participants were Ace Allen, Melanie Allmeyer, Mary Birnbaum, Rita Brown, Kelly Jackson, Laurie Klarfeld, Donna Oberstein, Mike Silberman, Naomi Silberman, Hannon Steinzig, Rob Tenenbaum, and yours truly, Audrey Asher.
So that was the back row?
Well, while you're on the subject of Kosher Fest, your narrative is a little bit different from my recollection. I don't know which is off, but I kind of remember her going down to someplace in the South, like Charlotte.
Atlanta.
Oh, Scott.
To
I thought that was
check
Judy
out-
Hoffman.
To check out a Kosher Fest, to see how it was being run.
Judy Hoffman.
That it was more than just her bringing back Moshe.
Mary, do you remember that?
I do remember that, and Donna said she thinks Judy Hoffman was there too, but I remember Meredith when they may have gone together. But
To someplace in the South.
Moshe came in the year before
Yeah.
for the dinner, for the Israeli dinner, which was very successful for Eucalyptus. And then Meredith got this idea of Kosher Fest, I think the following year.
So what year was that, Mary?
Well, I think it was 2007. I
Okay.
should have checked that out.
Okay.
We can look in the briefer.
Yeah. So Mary, you were the first chair with Lois?
Yes, that's correct. I still have vivid memories of Meredith recruiting me for that. She took me out to lunch. But it is, several things stand out to me about that first Kosher Fest. And one of them is Chris Kells standing on the wall playing Tradition.
That's a great memory, that he was the fiddler on the roof.
Yeah. I wanted him to get on the roof, but so he stood on that wall, and then at the end, Marvin blew the shofar. And I don't think anybody really paid attention to that. But another memory is when Asbury Church was over, when their service were over, they came across the street en masse. And it was like, wow, okay, this is gonna work. And lots of memories leading up to it. And the day of, Judy Hoffman was very instrumental. She went to the police department and the fire department, all the places that we needed permits from. And then at the end of, when it was over, she took cookies to them and I don't know, hamantaschen and stuff to reward them. But it was a lot of work, but a lot of fun, and I think that it was popular in the community, and I mean, I have gobs of memories. I don't want to.
Okay, Mary,
Did you do two?
I did the first 2 years.
That's what I
Lois
thought.
and I did the first 2
Okay,
years.
so Mary, was it you who said that every member of OHEV has to volunteer unless you're in a nursing home?
Well, I think
Well,
I
even
included
if
the
you're-
nurses.
Get special permission.
I know, well, we picked up people from Village Shalom and drove them. I have vivid memories of them sitting in Astor Hall, stuffing envelopes, folding. And we determined at that time that 97% of the people participated. And everybody had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it was exhausting, but I'm thrilled that we did it. I wish it could have continued forever. But
Well, Donna, you were chair after they were. Who was your co-chair?
Well, the first co-chair was Kelly. Well, Ace and I, we were recruited by you.
I don't remember if we got it.
I don't think I took you
I
out
don't
to
think
lunch.
you took us out to lunch. I think we sat in the OHEB office. And we took up the mantle from from Mary and Lois, which was a heavy mantle to assume. And one of the first things that Ace and I learned was how to stay on our own side of the street so that we could work together. He took over the whole physical plant.
What's that?
By the way, do you hear the
Is
music?
that someone's
Yeah,
Where's the music?
This is a classic OHEB occurrence here. That we're in the middle of something really magical and then something like this.
yeah,
It's a phone.
It's my phone. So I'd say for anyone's phone, let's go ahead and mute them.
So do you need your purse to be there? Here.
Which is your
blue purse? The blue is blue then.
Thank you.
I was like, we're not in temple right
Okay,
now.
I'm gonna.
Are you pause for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you, since I'm doing this, two things if you're talking about coaching.
We won't tell your King Louis story.
You've got to tell.
That's
me
the
about
best.
it.
No, you tell the King
Well, I'm
Louis
kinda
story
sitting
because
there.
they'll when
Well,
they get to your house.
there'll be three of these, right?
But I
So
also think somebody in here needs to say how Kosher Fest looks like this, but it really exploded with you two and Bob Magoon and really, you guys really took it from here to
Yeah, I'm fine.
there.
How many years was it? How many years did we have?
all right, so everyone's phones are muted, right?
Yeah.
Or on vibrate. All right, so back to
Okay.
Kosher Fest.
Kelly and I co-chaired Kelly Jackson and I co-chaired the kind of all the detail stuff. Ace managed the physical plant, the parking, the tents,
And the fundraising.
the fundraising, yes, which was crucial. And we
And
took-
groundbreaking. Ace brought in those cars, the electric,
Yeah, that's right.
before anybody knew there was such a
the
thing.
kosher cars.
Yeah. Don't go in and impinge on your story.
No, go ahead. We
See,
can
we're just
bounce.
starting to stay in our lanes here. Yeah, no, it was really, I mean, in fact, I think, Mike, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's kind of emblematic about OHEB. That OHEB it's a small synagogue, it's very flat hierarchy. It depends on its members to do everything. We don't have paid staff to speak of, didn't have. And therefore we had to do everything, and therefore you got to do everything. So you could, whatever ideas you had, you could make them happen, and you didn't have to claw your way through a lot of bureaucracy.
And no sugar daddies.
And no sugar daddies, that's
No,
really
never
important.
had
That's right, so in that flat, so there was nobody in the background saying, no, you can't do this because I'm a big mocker or something. That just didn't happen there. But to Mike's point, yeah, we had an idea. We got a group of people called Kansas Electricity. It was 5 people who put together an electric auto show there, and we tied it in because it was as a kind of kosher, green equals kosher. The term was Kiyum Adamah, or sustaining the earth. It had a Jewish tie in there. The other part of that was we brought in quite a bit of money from that because there was a kind of pay-to-play thing for them. They got a lot out of it. They got good exposure, and we got some money, and plus it was a lot of fun. We all learned a lot. So thanks for bringing that up, Mike.
And they also, it wasn't just all food, because if I remember correctly, there was a stage. And so you had dancing and you had, music.
There was a mock wedding. Molly married Asher Herbett, I think. And we really were able to grow it. Kelly brought, there's Kelly.
Perfect time.
Kelly and Rob.
We were just talking about you.
Kelly got us
There's a chair over there, Kelly and Rob. There's one over there.
Okay. The supplement in the Kansas City Star, I'll let Kelly talk about that when she gets to her seat. We also, one of the significant things we were able to do was we brought in the Vod HaKashrut of Kansas City, and 2 of our booths were under Vod supervision, so that there was a broader support in the community. Kelly, we're talking Kosher Fest.
Kosher Fest.
What was your role in partnering with Donna? Because I know she worked you hard.
Donna did all the food, which is most everything, and I did the rest.
Which was?
And I'm trying to remember what it was.
I know that you were dealing with the leftovers, packaging the leftovers.
And the runners.
That was the best part.
That's right.
Staff, all the people helping. Keeping everybody, always my biggest worry was safety. Because I didn't want anybody injured during Kosher Fest. So, and who was our caretaker?
Mike.
Mike was back then. He did a great job making sure it wouldn't be easy for people to trip or, just taking care of all those things. That was always my biggest worry. Because you had the food, and that was the...
Were you handling the finances, like the money coming in and the accounting?
No, that was me. I was locked in Drew Library from 10 in the morning until 5 at night.
Yeah, I
So all
remember
those
that.
little tickets would go back to you guys in the background.
Yeah. I haven't thought.
Yeah, and every year we tried a
Picking up
different way
stuff
to
and
collect
shoveling.
tickets.
Our car was always full of stuff.
Yeah, there's so many little things. Well, you had to find all the sponsors, and a lot of people helped finding sponsors,
Well, we had vendors.
vendors.
We got the cook.
And the cookbook.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kelly, what about the insert in the star?
Yeah,
You were
that's right.
responsible for that. How did that happen?
Good question, Audrey. Ace, I think you and I went up and
Yeah.
saw the people at the
Yeah.
Star.
Yeah.
And,
Back when they were
looked into
printing
how
these.
much it would be
Yeah.
and all of that.
And included, and I just saw the insert recently, so I had completely forgotten about it, but there was an insert that Scott had written about a kosher car. And so
Yeah.
and he was talking about
Oh, because we
driving
had
his
the electric
Prius.
vehicle, that was
Yeah,
your
so
first,
He called it.
First Electric Avenue.
Yes, yeah.
the first electric avenue.
There was an ad book too, right? I
Yeah,
remember
that was-
selling ads.
That was the
Yeah,
cookbook.
cookbook, yeah.
I remember selling ads,
Then
but
we had a lot of stuff from the JCC. Remember, we made several trips that was fencing and gates and posts and,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, we borrowed from them a lot of stuff, that's right.
Yeah.
there's a lot of physical structure that we're just stuffing in the car. I just remember making several trips and
So the second Kosher Fest, well, all the Kosher Fest, we hired a tent company, they set up all the tents and tables. But the second Kosher Fest that we chaired, and I don't want to forget to mention that my food co-chair was Ruth Roth in blessed memory, and she was amazing to work with. But we also used Emily Goldman was in high school, and she had a photography business. I think it was like Photography for a Cause. She didn't take any money. It was all done, but anything she raised, she took pictures for nonprofit organizations. And she photographed all week, the whole setup, and also Ace arranged for a camera on top of the building so that we were able to do a,
Aerial.
it was one of those, a time lapse of from the moment that the tents arrived and after Havdalah, when all of the congregants who were working showed up to set up the night before.
So at what time in the morning would that have been? Because it was on a Sunday.
It was still dark.
Yeah, it was still dark.
dark.
And we had it in June? Was that?
It was always the first weekend in June.
Okay.
And it never rained, if I remember correctly.
No,
Poo,
no.
poo, poo, it never rained.
Well, and if you'll recollect, we had a dearth of electrical outlets. And we needed a place to store, as Rob said, tons of food and frozen stuff, and so we had an outbuilding there.
Right.
Called the Little House on the Prairie.
On the parking lot.
Very dental.
It's just an outbuilding that we converted, and it became a storehouse. And we also, one of our congregants is an electrician, and he helped, he guided us in putting in, I don't know how many, must have been 36 outlets that we could use.
Was that Trent?
Nathan was
The time.
Oh, the time.
Yeah.
Right.
But we had all those extra refrigerators and freezers in there.
Yeah, and everybody donated.
And just the storage of grabbing this or that we're out of
All
stuff
the
and trying
inventory on
to figure out, which refrigerator, freezer had the right food to bring back to the right table. And the kids stuff, we had somebody do the art.
Oh,
Remember
There was
we were
like
cutting
a
out-
There was like a
Yeah.
playground.
Yeah, we cut out all the
Oh, yeah.
squares so they could do art
Barb
projects.
Jacobson helped with that. It was
Jacobs.
Barb Jacobs. Yeah, it was kind of in response to the murder just happened that year in April. And so this was, we had a Martin
Oh,
Luther
no, that's
King
right.
sign up
2014,
that
yeah.
said, what's the saying he has, the only thing to keep out darkness is love, or I can't quite remember.
Right, right.
And so we had kids, or anyone who wanted to come do an art
Oh,
picture kind of based on that
Valerie
theme.
Herman was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because remember we were cutting those square parchments
Mhm.
for that project.
Yeah.
The very first 2 years, we did not have corporate sponsors. And many people supported their own booth. We had it broken out into Jewish holidays. Donna and Ace did Sabbath, I think for the first 2 years.
Yes, and I had just had rotator cuff surgery, and I was in
Oh,
the
yeah, I remember that.
kitchen with my arm in a sling baking
Yeah.
chicken.
And several people,
It was all lopsided. It was all
Those chickens.
it was, and the food was delicious. And one of my most vivid memories is walking up and down the school wing hall, maybe 10,000 times. and I finally was doing it barefooted.
Oh God, the flea market was in the school wing.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did that, no, it was out
It was
on the.
outside.
Yeah, it was
But
outside.
part of it was
Secondhand
inside.
roses.
Secondhand roses, that's right.
And that was a lot of fun, and we did really nice business too. I kind of chaired that when Donna and Ace and Kelly were chairing the Kosher Fest. I took over Secondhand Rose, which is doing that kind of stuff. But and
I think we
also
still have your old waffle maker that you
You've moved
From
this 3
secondhand
times
round.
now.
the first 2 years, my son Aaron provided the generators and something else. And but that was before we took advantage of the little house. That's something Ace thought of, not me. I never thought.
Okay, so
Well, I think Mike was still living there.
No.
No,
See, no?
he was, yes.
Okay.
yeah.
Mary, you mentioned that the first 2 years you didn't have corporate sponsors, but later you did, and one of the sponsors was King Louis.
Oh, I know
Okay,
that.
so I think we have a King Louis story if someone can tell
Well,
us that.
they did the T-shirts.
Yes,
And we had to, I kept reminding people who would put a jacket on or something, just wear the T-shirt. We have to show King Louis. Yeah.
but,
So, okay, so.
go ahead.
I
wanna
don't
tell
know
this-
that story.
okay.
So, part of the offering for Kosher Fest Beyond Food was tours of the sanctuary. And Joel was in charge of that. And there were tours like on the half hour or the hour, I can't remember when. Anyway, as Joel was doing one of the tours, because the Kosher Fest was open to the community, I mean, we had a few thousand people in the greater Kansas City area attending. It wasn't all Jews, so there were people touring the sanctuary, and one of them sees King Louis on the back of the T-shirt and says, "I'm not familiar with."
I know about King David.
From the jungle.
You know, there's like King David and King Solomon. Who was King
That's great. That's great.
That sect of Judaism.
Joel did those tours, and he was involved in more than one incident where he got oddball questions. There was one year he was doing the tour, and I bumped into him afterwards. He was kind of laughing and shaking his head at the same time. And he bumped into me and he said, "You're not going to believe what just happened." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, I took this little group on a tour, and we started out downstairs, and I showed them the physical plant, Waldman Hall and Asner Hall, and went upstairs to the sanctuary. There was one person in the group kept on looking all around for something, and I couldn't figure out what. And finally, so I got my curiosity up, so I asked him what he was looking for, and he wanted to know where we kept the animals.
The sacrifice.
Two refrigerators.
The tours were popular though, because most people, I mean, you know, the bulk of the community had not ever seen a tour open. And I don't remember if Joel, did you do that? Did you open them? I know that Scott did the first couple.
We did them together.
And it's very impressive.
Well, Kosher Fest was so big, and we could talk for hours about it, I think. But we also had something else that was unique at our synagogue, which was the Hamantash Latke debate.
Great Latke Hamantash.
So tell us about that, Melanie.
I brought the book, which inspired the whole thing, actually. My aunt, of blessed memory, Dr. Ruth Fredman Chernia, edited the book, and it's actually, it started back in 1947 at the University of Chicago. And she was a cultural anthropologist and was very interested in all these, you know, just whatever Jewish things that were going on. And she had worked at Hillel at the time and attended this debate and realized that this is really pretty amazing, that right after World War II, a number of, it was a Hillel rabbi and some professors at the University of Chicago came together and they wanted to do something fun for the students and the professors after World War II. So they had they had a ridiculous theme of having debaters debate whether the latke was better or the hamantash was better. So they had professors of different disciplines coming up with these amazing arguments. And another big thing was that they would always have a non-Jewish professor also be a member of the debate. And so from that, I'm just sad that my aunt couldn't see us doing this, but to honor her memory, I just thought it would be a really neat thing to have in Kansas City. We never had it before. So anyway, back in 2013 was the first time we had it. We had 2 of them at OHEB, and I was so grateful for our committee, a lot of you on the committee, and just finding debaters that were not just OHAB debaters, but throughout the community. So it was really a community effort, not to the same magnitude as Kosher Fest, but certainly involving communities. So we had rabbis, debating. We had, let's see, Audrey, you were a debater, and
Audrey came out in her gown.
Right, she was a professor, right? And, oh my gosh, we had. Well, let's see, Chris was a debater the first year. I mean, I have it all these programs.
Mike was a debater, not Mike Summer, Mike Lerner.
And Mike, of course, Mike Lerner, Mike Kolb.
We had
a lot of debaters, right?
So great.
And so that was really wonderful. We even, all different ages too. And not just Jewish people came to this. I mean, we invited people from the community, and we were, we were on television. We were on the radio, we were interviewed on KCUR. So, the first 2 years at OHAB, but then we went on to the White Theater for the last 3 years.
So we did it 4 years total?
Five.
We did it
2012 through 2017. And there's a very generous anonymous donor allowed us to go into White Theater. And we still have money left over, so maybe we could still do it at Beth Shalom. But anyway, it was just a really, I don't know, I was really happy to bring it to,
It was fun, it was funny.
It was very fun.
It brought laughter, so that was really
exactly.
fun.
And Chris Kelt, Scott was our first moderator, Rabbi Scott. And then the next 4 years, Chris Keltz was. And then Maureen, his wife, she was the timer, but they had nice little repartees. And then we had a raffle. My uncle let us raffle books, and I just remember how neat it was that some non-Jewish people got the raffle. I got the books, and it was just a really neat way, I thought, to not just to involve our community, OHAB, but also the community at large.
Well, and to address a really important question.
And we never came up with the answer. We never did.
But we solved it.
No, but remember, I think was it the first time? I can't remember. But yeah, all 5 debates, we had a team Latka and we had a team Hamantash, and we had 3 debaters on each side. And then we would have the audience vote on which team, and I'll never forget this. My neighbor, my former neighbor, but very dear friend, Lauren Leifer's mother was there, and she was on team Latka, and she went and made, she had all these necklaces made of potatoes, and she won. She was so competitive, and her mom was so upset that her team didn't win. But we had musical renditions. Remember?
Oh yeah,
slideshows.
Yeah. Remember how Rabbi Sharon, how he ended he put on this hat like Leonard Cohen and sat.
No, that was John Lantos. That was John Lantos. John Lantos was Leonard Cohen.
I thought it was the rabbi.
No, the rabbi. He sang "Lady." Didn't he say "Lady"? And brothers would say "Lady." Sing
I
"Lady."
I have them mixed up.
But that was a very musical one. I think that was the most musical one.
Yeah, it was very fun. And
plus, it was a great advertisement for Hamantash and sales.
It really was. I mean, of course, we served Hamantash and lunches afterwards. We had a committee meeting. But the other thing is, it was really cool, is that John Lantos, Dr. John Lantos, actually, my aunt had selected his debate presentation because he was at the University of Chicago. And so it was so cool when a friend had said, oh, well, he's in town. And he agreed to present, but I told him he couldn't use the same presentation. And he was the one that came up with the Leonard Cohen rendition of Hamantash. Oh my God. I remember when I first received it, I was laughing so hard. It was just so clever. It was just so neat that we have such creativity and humor. And anyway, but another original of OHAB. Right?
Yeah.
Not an original. This is still going on. I mean, but all over the country. But
Originally
for Kansas City.
New to Kansas City. Well, here's another original that Audrey and I did.
Okay.
Or do you want to try that?
Go ahead.
At the beginning of COVID, when we were all trying to figure out how we were going to find meaning in approaching the holidays, and that it was all going to be virtual, Audrey and I came up with the idea of enhancing Elul, a month of programs. Each week a different topic. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, connected to the high holidays to get us prepared for the high holiday season. So maybe some kind of learning that we could, you know, because the high holidays comes and you just see that Machzor once a year, unless you're a rabbi or a chazan. You know, you're looking at it once a year. So this was our way of, well, let's just take something and see if we can
Get ready.
Yeah, get ready. So
Oh,
that's-
it totally worked.
thanks.
I enjoyed every one of them,
Yeah.
and the one I think you facilitated was the poetry with Maggie's brother.
yeah.
And that's the first time I have ever thought that I enjoyed or understood poetry.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It didn't last long,
Do it again.
but for that 30 or 40 minutes, I really appreciated it.
Yeah, and Anna and I did one where she did the musical part of Umatana Toketh, and I did the poetry part of it, and Donna, you did a poem, I think.
Well, Michael Hasselman and I did Psalm, is it 27?
I think so.
Yeah, we did Psalm 27, which was, there was poetry in that too. That was really a great experience. Yeah.
So it was good for us who were doing it, so I'm glad it was good for the people who
And
tuned in.
Ace did an excellent program too with Chris White.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
right.
that's right.
I did.
That's right. That was talking about, relations, race relations?
Race relations
Yeah.
And I know it was the first time I heard the book about the crossing. That's not the right name for it.
Passing, or
There was a book about the Middle Passage.
Oh,
You
yes,
and Chris
yes,
were
yes.
both
Oh,
reading
yes,
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought maybe we could flip back a little bit earlier in time because I want to make sure we, there's sisterhood experiences like Rita and Naomi. Maybe there's some sisterhood stories.
Well, I always think of the cooking as the kitchen ladies,
Yeah.
and you don't cross them. That's what I always say. If the kitchen ladies make a decision, that's it, boy. You're not changing anything. And so it was fun back there cooking. It was the group of women. I know Mary was there constantly, and Lois and Carol Brooks, and they gave me the job. I was the one who had to separate. They were making cabbage rolls. Stuffed cabbage?
Cabbage rolls?
Cheryl's Cabbage Rolls was
Yeah.
kosher.
Yeah, well, it might have been for Kosher Fest, or it might have been
Yeah,
for
for
other.
everything.
And I think you were the cabbage roller that Carol Brooks liked the
No,
best.
she liked me. I was the best separator of cabbage leaves.
That's right.
I don't know what I did, but I did it the right way, and I won her approval, and nobody was going to touch those cabbage leaves, because Carol made sure that I was the one that separated the leaves. So, we froze them sometimes, we put them in boiling water sometimes, and we just had stacks of cabbage leaves, and everybody had their job. And it was tiring, but it was fun because we just enjoyed each other's company.
A lot of fun.
So Rita and Hannah, you worked in the kitchen a lot, right?
I did, not a lot, but I did work in the kitchen.
Yeah. Do you have anything that stands out and that you want to?
And the one time I was working with Ruth Roth, and I had we were making something with egg salad, and I had to take all the shells. Oh, that was a job, but I was the one that got that, so that's
Hannah, did you do Hamantaschen?
I did Hamantaschen and with Alan Wasserman with the latkes.
Right,
We
right.
cooked 1 million latkes every Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Big job. We couldn't have eaten without you guys in the kitchen.
And one project that I'd like to just mention is...
Well, I'm surprised you got anything to eat at all.
How about some memories of when Danny was our rabbi? Because he initiated a lot of programs as, where you and I are looking and Donna, we're creating a timeline for the memorabilia room, and we're thinking, gee, he initiated that walking up to the bima in front of the open arc during Vila.
Yeah.
And he encouraged us to wear kittles, which many of us continue to do for the high holidays.
And to do the Great Aleinu.
The what?
Oh, right, the Great Aleinu, where you actually, you prostrate yourself, during the Aleinu, yes.
But the Torah Project also.
Well, I was just
I mean,
gonna say that.
Oh, so talk a little bit about that, Laurie. What was that?
That was a year of writing a Torah. We had a scribe, Eric Ray, who came, I think, 2 or 3, maybe 3 times with his wife, and he was writing our Torah, and we had all of these wonderful Torah parties that the sisterhood actually put together. I mean, they were the ones who did a yeoman's job of putting these parties together, where people chose a part of the Torah to dedicate however they wanted to dedicate it. And I think there were about 5 couples or 4 couples that contributed a chunk of money for each book of the Torah, and everybody participated. Almost everybody, I think, in the synagogue participated in one way or another. And then at the end of the year, because it took a whole year, at the end of that year we had a big siyum, a big party.
Fabulous.
And Rabbi Horowitz, I think he wrote the last letters of the Torah. That was kind of an honor that we gave him, or that Rabbi Ray gave him, so that he wrote the last few letters of the Torah. And it was a great party. I mean, it was a great day. We had a photographer who was there to photograph each of the families or individuals or couples or whatever who, wrote part of the Torah, and then the photographer was pleased to be able to sell those pictures, I guess, some of them. And so he made a little bit of money, and then the Torah Project made some money. And it was a great year. Really.
I think one other thing, I wasn't able to go to it, but I think you went, Kelly, to the Truman Library, where Weitzman Weitzman gave Truman a Torah.
Yes.
Truman's famous line was, "I always wanted one of these." But our Torah scribe was able to say, looking at this, I believe this was written, probably in Poland around this time.
Right.
Really give again, I wasn't part of that, but I think you were there to really give a historical context of
That was a
of
wonderful
a special tour within the Truman Library that nobody goes sees, and just to say by the writing, this came from this part of Europe
Yeah, they
around
were
this
excited
time.
to have him there to look at it.
Right, because
Yeah.
it wasn't put away at that
It was,
point.
well,
Yeah.
he wanted to, he
It
expressed.
was in storage, and as
Right.
I heard the story, Rabbi Ray told them that it was stored upside down, and they had no idea that it was stored upside down.
Yeah, oh, that was a fabulous program. I'm glad you remembered that. That was
Yeah.
I
wonderful.
remembered I didn't go, but hearing
Yeah,
about
but
it
you
was
remembered
just
it.
just amazing.
And I hope now it's in,
Dude,
now
you
it's
brought
being
up
displayed
Rabbi
at the-
Horowitz.
at the
No, it
renovated
is.
Truman Library.
I don't know if it is now or not. I haven't been to the remodel.
I was
Truman
there,
Library.
the whole room
Yeah,
just
I
got
haven't
Israel,
been there
it's really
since
amazing.
Yeah. Mike, go ahead.
You brought up Rabbi Horowitz, and my memory is not what it used to be, but I kind of recollect it was under Rabbi Horowitz that we took 2 major steps. One was formally joining United Synagogue,
That's right.
and the other was to go egalitarian,
Yeah.
which were 2 major steps
Yeah, he
for the
really,
congregation, both of which were under his
it was
leadership.
huge.
So one of the memories I have is I loved his sermons, and he really presented well. He spoke well from the pulpit. And I remember one of my holidays, he started it by singing from Oklahoma. Yeah, there was no introduction. He just started singing Oklahoma, and that somehow led into whatever he was sermonizing about. But he always
You might mention that he's from Oklahoma.
he is from Oklahoma.
Donna's from Oklahoma.
We have him in a home movie when he was 4 years old as King Ahasuerus at the Purim parade. He didn't change much.
He's a little taller.
I also remember during the O.J. Simpson trial, remember their judge, Judge Ito? At Purim that year, Rabbi Horowitz came out as Judge Ito.
Oh, that's funny.
And it was perfect. And when he walked out, everybody just started laughing because they knew, they immediately recognized Judge Ito.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things that happened during his time was Pizza in the Hut. That whole program during Sukkot, where we I think the idea was bring in pizza, make it easy, and we'll do a little bit of learning while we, fulfill the mitzvah of eating a sukkah. But somehow it got more complicated because Sisterhood decided, I think, to cook.
I didn't cook, so
there was food. There was
always food.
There was always good food. Mary would know more about
good food and good lessons.
Yeah, we did lentil soup and I think vegetable soup. You had two choices, egg salad and tuna salad. And the last day, we combined the egg salad and the tuna salad.
I think we can't talk about the rabbi without also mentioning Toby and all the programming that Toby did. And what I remember most of all is how many Jeopardies she put together for us.
How many what?
Instead of Jeopardy, it was Jeopardy.
Jeopardy.
And after after those Friday night dinners, she would often lead us in a game of that. And it was a tremendous amount of work.
She also did the Machane Shalom. There was a little summer camp that she did, and it was just really sweet. Just really sweet. It's based at OHAB, and they used to go to one of the local playgrounds, take the kids there. And it was just
very
sweet.
simple.
Very simple.
But that's all you need. A playground for summer.
Yeah.
Well, when Kelly and I came to town with 3 little kids and synagogue shopping, and we were talking, we're doing the OHEB thing, just narrow it down to 3 things, was one, Danny's sermons were amazing.
Yeah.
They were brilliant. They were just brilliant. Lights out. The second thing of how welcoming everybody is, that he invited us for a Shabbat dinner, like the second week, and other synagogues were more lukewarm. And then being egalitarian, I think the women in OHEB made it. The sisterhood, the food, amazing. Group of just really strong, brilliant leadership, innovative stuff. So I know that it really attracted Kelly and me. So, that combination of things made the choice of synagogue really, really easy.
So Rob, when you walked in the door, were you asked if you wanted an Aliyah?
Well, it was a Friday night dinner you came.
I don't know that the first time we went, you were asked, but shortly thereafter, I'm sure you were.
Yeah, I think shortly thereafter, but it was just, very welcoming, very educational, a synagogue full of very curious minds, wanting to learn more and dig deeper and questioning. And,
you know what Danny also did, I just remembered, is that he had a class on Torah trope. So he got a number of us congregants to learn trope, and that's when we started laning. That's when we started chanting Torah. Now we never did a lot because he was, he could read the entire parsha without, any assistance needed at all. But it sure came in handy when the next rabbi, needed a little bit of bolstering, and then the rabbi after that also did as well. So I really, you know, I'm grateful to Danny that he had the class, and Ace, I don't.
Yeah, I think
He also did Haftorah Torah,
Oh,
which is-
sure. Yeah.
which I attended, and I chanted a Haftorah, and I still have a framed scroll portion. I never did it again though, but I want to go back to the tour project just briefly because Kelly and I were in charge of the home parties. I mean, we were the one that had the video. When we were discussing what to do, Kelly came up with this line from Deuteronomy where Moshe says, write for yourself this, I lost it, write for yourself this poem. And it was Kelly's idea to use that sentence as the thesis for all of our study groups.
Oh.
And we were at, and it worked, everybody talked about it, but we were at one at, I think Connie Camel's house, and Neil Deitch was there. And when we were wrapping up, he said, we've been here an hour and a half talking about one sentence in the Torah. And that, I mean, he was impressed by it, and I thought, that's really stunning. It really is. And I can thank Kelly for that, because she came up with that.
Blow the shofar. It was one of the most powerful synagogue experiences I ever had. He understands something so profound about
Being
what
Jewish.
it is, well, being Jewish, and what that blowing the shofar it's not a performance, it's not pro forma, it's something so deep, and he has that ability to through the shofar to speak to everyone in the sanctuary, and it was such a profound experience. And year after year of that, when he stopped blowing the shofar, it was such a loss.
He was a wonderful bar mitzvah teacher, because
Yeah.
that's how I learned to do Musaf, basically, was from Steve, because he was teaching Adam, and I was going with Adam to his classes, you know, before Adam was bar mitzvah, and Steve was just phenomenal. I mean, he taught Adam everything, not just the Torah reading and the Haftorah reading and Musaf, but also how to go around the synagogue and kind of be warm and friendly to people who were supportive of him in his bar mitzvah. I mean, he just taught him how to act. He was a wonderful bar mitzvah teacher.
He taught my two oldest boys too, and they didn't hate going there because Steve was such a cool guy.
A good, great sense of humor too.
Yeah.
He also taught them how to hold their hands for emphasis and use their hands.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
His drama.
Yeah, he did.
Well, I saw him in
Yeah,
high school at
he
Shawnee
had
Mission
to.
South. He and my cousin were in the drama department.
So here's a Steve story. On Beanie's bar mitzvah morning,
Our son.
I had my list, and not on my list was Beanie's notebook. The whole service. So Beanie gets to shul without the notebook, and Steve is leading Shachrit, and so Ace hops in the car to drive home, and Noel is timed up for sprint traffic.
Going the other direction.
So Ace hit every red line between OHEB and our house. It was a long time. Anyway, Steve knew that Ace had left the sanctuary, the synagogue, to go pick up Beanie's notebook, because Beanie couldn't do it without it. So Steve was reading Shachrit, and he was making it
Very slow.
the longest Shachrit in history.
Delay of game.
And he kept looking at me, and I kept going, more. Until finally Ace came dashing into the sanctuary. So Steve saved the day.
I'd like to say a few words about the morning minion too, which was very,
Yeah,
very
yes,
special for forever at OHEB. And we had a whole cadre of minionaires, people who would come and be part. And people would take a particular day for their minion. We have some great pictures of our son when he was about 4. He was the pushki prince. He would collect it up at the time, and if someone gave him a quarter, he was trained to say, "Is that all?" And I want to bow here to the minion captains. The most remarkably, I think, was Marvin Denton, who only did it for 50 years. Only did it for 50 years, and did an extraordinary job. And it's one of those background jobs that makes a synagogue what it is. It's thankless is the wrong word, but it's not high profile. It has to be done. It took I don't know how many thousands of hours, how many tens of thousands of phone calls Marvin would make to make this thing work.
What about Breakfast Club? Did you go to that, Mike?
I was the cook at Breakfast Club.
Oh, tell us about that.
Well, it started out, Breakfast Club was very well timed for OHEB. It would be, we would have our morning minion on Sunday starting at 9 o'clock, which is right after the kids were dropped off at Sunday school. So we would have our Monday morning minion at 9, and by 10 o'clock we'd be downstairs having Breakfast Club. And over the years, rather than go home after dropping the kids off, I would stay for minion, and then I made eggs at Breakfast Club with Marvin.
So what year did it start, or about what decade?
It was there, when we joined in the 70s, Breakfast Club had been going on for
Yeah, it was going on.
I don't know exactly when they started, but I'm sure that had been going on for at least a decade.
Okay.
And it used to be a good crowd, and we used to get as many as 20 or 25 people on a Sunday morning. And cooking eggs was a big deal, because you made regular eggs. Some people wanted just whites, so you had to separate them out. It was the only time I ever saw Marvin cry. And he literally did cry, because one year I took all the yolks from the 10 people or so who wanted just egg whites, and I made myself an omelet with just egg Marvin, who was conscious of what he did, literally cried watching me eat that.
Well, we had great speakers there too. We would have Breakfast Club speakers.
I think Rabbi Horowitz.
Did he start?
He started
because he was always at Breakfast Club, and I guess that he thought that was a good time to teach something or learn something rather than just talk about the game.
Audrey brought up the subject earlier of rabbis, and to be very serious for a moment, one of the things or the people that I will almost surprisingly always remember is Rabbi Pador, because she came in just before the pandemic. And looking back at it at the time, I was very concerned. I was very upset over the ramifications I saw potentially to the synagogue by not being able to attend, and people just being confined to Zoom services and whether they would question retaining membership of the synagogue, and question the wisdom of staying active. And even though she was only our rabbi for a total of 4 years, including this year, Rabbi Kador worked very, very hard in implementing some programs that I think served to keep the congregation together. And I don't know that we could have. I mean, she mastered Zoom so that we could have services, morning minyan every morning, have services on Shabbos on Zoom. She had that one program she instituted, like a Havdalah program, but it was Schmooze and Booze, which was wonderful because you could get on there and sit there and just chat, more like BS if you're be honest, with a bunch of people who you hadn't been able to see all week because you no longer you go to synagogue. And it really went a long way, I think, in keeping the synagogue together to the point where we could ultimately reach the decision we did reach, which is kind of ironic, but I don't know that we could have lasted long enough to get to where we ultimately got if she had not done what she did during the brief period of time she was our rabbi.
I think you're right. And remember when she first came, like that first month, there were about 7 funerals.
Yeah.
Oh, right, right.
And my husband was one of those. And she was wonderful,
Yeah.
really. And when I just lost the name, Lori.
Marcia Temple.
No, I'm talking about Andy's.
Oh, Andy's mother.
Harriet Creven.
Harriet Creven.
Yeah.
And I know this because Lori was up there with Andy, and Rabbi Kador didn't know those people, and she came up there at about 10:30 at night after
It was more like 11:30 at night.
and stayed until Lewis's came.
Yeah, she was very good.
Yeah.
And
She did.
also to build on what Mike said, for the high holidays, Anna Jaffe was wonderful in her. Anna's very skilled with the computer, and she's musical, of course. So she worked with Rabbi Kador so that those high holiday services, I think we did a really good job doing it on Zoom, and it was because the structure that was created by Anna and Rabbi Kador together. So I agree with you, Mike. We shouldn't overlook the difficulty. She never had an installation because COVID came, and so it really was kind of a bum deal for her as things turned out. But I think that it's nice to remember the contribution she made to keep us going. And with that, I think we should talk a little bit about Scott, because he was our rabbi for 14 years.
Right, Shirley Shabbat. I mean, that's a good segue right there.
That was the big thing. That was
And we still do it.
we still do
So
it.
enjoyable.
It's
I was just going to bring up Scott
Yeah, go ahead.
because I've said this a lot of times, but I met Scott when he was 17, and he had this big Jufro. And he was really cute, and the girls were crazy about him, which he took advantage of. And I always liked
The opportunity, not the girls.
I really meant he took advantage of how cute he was, Anyway, and I loved having him at OHA. I always had a soft spot for him. I still look at him like he was 17 years old, and that's probably not too good. But I think that his devars, some of them were excellent, and following Danny, that's a lot to say. And I remember somebody complaining because he always used sports metaphors, and I thought, I like that. It makes me understand. But I have enjoyed being with him and having him for a rabbi. When my daughter died, it was on a Shabbos morning, and one of my friends told Scott at services. And at that time, Scott was only driving to and from shul on Shabbos, and I don't know if he still does that, but he drove to my house after services, and he walked in through the garage, and he was hugging me, and I remember he had on a light blue dress shirt, and when I moved away from his entire shirt was wet. It was dark blue because I had cried on his shoulder. But that's kind of maudlin, but I miss him as the rabbi. I'm glad he's still hanging around.
Yeah, and a great Torah reader, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, I think that him being there for you, I think that was one of Scott's real strengths. When our family was in crisis, when Molly was ill, Scott was amazing. He, when Molly was living outside the home, he would take his guitar and entertain the girls in the dorm, and he would bring her kosher salami because there wasn't kosher food where she was. He was really there for our family at a time when we really needed him.
Well, and I should add, since I talked to Meredith, I mean, Scott visits her frequently. So, you know, he does a lot of those things that we didn't necessarily know about, but, you know, didn't get attention. And I think it's ironic that how he struggled with us as a congregation to get musical instruments into Shabbat. And there was such resistance, and it took so long. And finally, you know, something happens. And what's the one program that goes with us when we are no longer existing and we're part of another, you know, larger entity? Shir Shabbat lives on.
Yeah, it's still going.
Yeah, it's still going.
Good point.
Yeah, and he's there playing, you know, he's part of the musical part, a piece of it.
And the impact you had also, you know, through Beth Shalom, because there's Tefillah Atenu that's once a month too.
Yeah.
And that they're really very concerned about keeping both of these musical.
And one of his strengths as a teacher is he's very knowledgeable about politics, particularly in Israel. And when he teaches Zionism, any class relating to the history of Israel, he's very good. And I think that he did that for us while we were a synagogue, and he did that in the larger community too.
When my mother died, we had a kind of a late Shiva because of Tisha B'Av, and so my cousin said to me, "Is your rabbi a really good friend of yours?" And I said, "Well, yes and no. I wouldn't say really close friend, but yeah, why?" And he said, "Because I've never seen a rabbi clear the table or serve people at a meal." He said, "Your rabbi was really helping everybody get their food and clearing things off." He said, "I've never seen that before, ever."
I think he's like that at home, Sylvia. She has good things to say about him, and that's it.
Well, don't forget Sylvia too. She played a big role.
Yeah, she's good.
Especially with the kids and keeping the
Yeah,
kids
because
for
your kids knew she was the junior congregation person for high holidays where your kids were.
Yeah.
And a B'nai Mitzvah teacher. She taught several of the kids.
Well, and I think Scott's strength, and it's tough, like you say, following Danny with brilliant sermons. I think Scott's strength was appealing more to the younger crowd. I mean, Ohad was an older generation. So using analogies like sports or
movies.
Yeah, movies, or it was important when the kids did Maccabi games.
Right.
That was part of his sermon, or to come on in and talk about stuff when, you know, invited Jake, or there was a personal feel of always asking about my mom, my dad. So I think
Yeah, I remember that.
his strengths were, in that interpersonal
Social.
stuff, or somehow trying to get the kids more involved. And of course with Sylvia there too, that,
Yeah, sure. That was her
it's
strength.
trying to keep the synagogues, younger was a hard thing.
I always felt that Rabbi Horowitz was shy, very, very shy, and a brilliant teacher, and if you approach him, very welcoming, but I felt that he was shy, extremely shy, and I remember when Scott, I guess, was auditioning, and on Shabbat he went around to every table and sat down and talked to people, and I think that you're right.
You needed that mind meld, right?
Yeah, it was, that's his strongest suit, is welcoming everybody.
He was really good with kind of maintaining the through line of Bohet traditions too, and just because of his own personal history of involvement since he was young. And I was sparking as we were talking about this of Leah Ernstein, was one of our congregants, a young woman at the time who with Down syndrome, and but she had a place. By God, she had a place in the synagogue, and at the end, she would march up and. What was it for a lady? Whatever it was, she'd march up and
No, it was a Donald.
She would march up, and I could still hear her feet go boom, 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 boom. And I was just thinking that because she was doing that from Danny and then through Rabbi White, and just there was this kind of wonderful through line of a young woman who might not have had such a place in another synagogue, but she was everyone remembers Leah.
Audrey, I have one for you. Shaw Scholar.
Oh, well,
The
this
Shaw
was
Scholar.
another Danny idea.
Oh, excellent.
And he asked me to do it because he recognized that if you give me a discrete task, I can do it. I can outline the project. So I did that for quite a few years, but it was, I enjoyed the program. We brought in an array of speakers, one of them Reuben Hammer, and I was just recently looking him up and seeing that not only was he the guy who wrote a commentary on the prayer book, on the conservative prayer book, not Sim Shalom, well maybe it was a commentary on Sim Shalom, but that was the reason that he came in, but he also was the founder of the Masorti movement in Israel. At least that's what Wikipedia said, so I was surprised, but that's the caliber of people we had in. We had some Zohar Raviv, an Israeli teacher who I met in Melton, and we shared expenses with another synagogue in Denver to bring him in from Israel. And we had Rahel Musleya, who writes for Hadassah magazine, and she talked about her background of being Indian, from family from India, and I think Iraq, and just and Carla Klausner, local, wonderful, wonderful scholar who was who presented
Who
so
was the
many.
one who talked about IBM?
Oh, and that one.
Oh, yeah.
His daughter was our cousin.
Yes.
I can't remember his name.
Black.
Black. That's right.
That was great. That was a
Yeah,
great one.
yeah. So I thought we had, a good array of speakers, and so we started.
You
That
left
spoke
out
about
vegan.
the
The vegan.
conversos.
The vegan.
From St. Louis.
Right.
Fran.
Yes.
Fran.
Yes, St. Louis.
In New Mexico.
Yeah, so we did it for a lot of years, and I guess we just stopped during COVID. Because, I didn't do it forever, I passed it on to the next chair of it. But we originally started by having Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. And we did that for many years, and then finally we were saying, we're not getting enough people for Havdalah. So we cut out the Havdalah service, but we maintained, good turnouts, and it was just really heartening that it was OHAB we like to learn, and that's what it felt like. You know, we come together, we like to eat good food that sisterhood makes, and we like to learn together. And that was, you know, would make it a great program.
And written by the Shaw family, just to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
I think that kind of highlights how many programs have we talked about. And here, you know, what's the size of the congregation? 110, 20 families. Yet,
as a child growing up in the synagogue. And Lori, would you share the story about Rabbi Miller and Wednesday night bowling?
Oh, yes. Rabbi Miller, I guess he just loved to bowl. And so in the summer, we had a teen bowling league, or I think I was preteen at the time, and an adult bowling league, and we all went to probably King Louis to bowl.
What else?
Yeah, and it was so much fun. I mean, Rabbi Miller was just a really fun guy, and we just enjoyed having adults and teens, all of us in one place, doing something totally not religious, but just being together and having a great time.
I just love that story because it was, I'm thinking how he got the kids, you know, preteens and teens into their league, and the parents, but they're in the same facilities. So this is great as a parent. I'm thinking, you know where your kid's at, it's okay, and you can have fun and bowl. And so everybody was having a good time.
Yes, and I think we probably took over most of the bowling alley. I don't remember any other people being there but us, but...
And it was the highlight of the week.
Oh, yes.
Not Shabbos. Wednesday night bowling.
Not Shabbos. At that age, definitely. Not Shabbos, but bowling, yes.
Another group activity we did was the installation dinners. For, what is it, every 2 years that we would have those, I guess.
You had the best.
Oh. You can tell that story. Yeah, that was a great one. But
Did you forget your notebook?
It was really fun, and we had tea dances. We had dances, and I remember Arnold and Mary were quite cut the rug. Quite cut the rug. But that was really, and that was completely manufactured and staffed and everything else by our little by volunteers. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons we were able to hold it together so long, even as our members were aging and dying and we weren't replenishing with young families, is that we had some leaders who were willing to step up more than once to be president. And so one of them is sitting next to me, Mike, who was president 3 times, right? 3 times, taking us through to the final negotiations of consolidating with Beth Shalom. And then Ace, who was president twice, and I was looking at some old records and I forgot, and it reminded me that Ace, you used to write a lot, and you're such a good writer, and so I saw something I had never seen before. You wrote a letter to someone who was newborn. It was Debbie Rosenberg had a baby, and you wrote a letter to the baby. And you welcomed the baby, and you called, you know, welcome the baby to our synagogue and all the programs the baby could participate in. And it was so sweet, and I just thought, you know, parents, you know, you get a letter like that, you know, it was just a lovely, lovely touch that you brought to it.
Thank you.
Audrey, will you tell us the story of Nate and Danny?
Oh, yeah, this is cute. When Nate was bar mitzvah, he was 5'6". And Danny, I don't think he wasn't 5'6". Danny was, maybe he was 5'5", 5'4". He was probably 5'4". So they're standing on the bima, and it's the time when Danny is addressing the bar mitzvah boy. And Danny, in his inimitable way, he looks up at Nate like this, and that draws a little chuckle. And then Nate squats down to the eye level with Danny, and then that draws another chuckle. And then Danny continues and gives him a little.
Typical.
But when Danny asked Nate,
oh, that story, right. When Danny was meeting with Nate before the bar mitzvah, and he's having a serious conversation about, okay, so now Nate, you know, as becoming a bar mitzvah, what do you see as changing? What will your responsibilities be? And he pauses, and I'm sitting there listening to him, and he says, go to committee meetings?
And how many times were you president, Audrey?
I just that month, I took over for Sandy, of blessed memory. I finished her term, and I was supposed to.
And then did your own.
And did my own.
We can't forget about the gift shop. All those years.
Let's
that you
hear
were-
it. Rita and Hannah, and talk to us about that, the gift
Well, I
shop.
enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
was like, here's a school teacher becoming a shopkeeper.
Uh-huh.
I did enjoy it, and I tried. Different people would ask me to order different things. I'd look at the catalog and I would do that. I really enjoyed that.
Uh-huh.
So
It was a sweet little shop.
Yeah, and you did it for a long time.
Well, you kept it going.
Yeah, you did.
well, I enjoyed it.
And Hannah helped you?
Only the hard work.
That's why you were needed. Someone has to do it.
Might as well be me.
Hannah, when did you join OHEB?
Well, the first time I joined OHEB was in 1964 when I married Pete Cohen's daughter, Joe Levine's first cousin.
Uh-huh.
And I was a member there for maybe 4 or 5 years. We were also members of Beth Shalom. And then I went back to the synagogue when Rita and I got married. Rabbi White married us.
Uh-huh.
And I told him at the time I wouldn't want to belong to a congregation that would have me as a member. But they took me anyway, so.
Yeah.
It was Sally's fault.
She was membership chair.
Yeah.
When
She did a
when
good
I
job
first
with that, too.
joined OHEB, my family sat behind Hammond on the high holidays. And it was the Levine family, because Levine Cohen family, all of them.
I think I used to sit, well, Donna and Ace and I sat behind Arnold Levine and Shirley Levine. We always sat in the same
Right.
row.
We
We
sat
never
behind Phyllis and Harold
Yeah.
Hurst.
That was the
Shirley
high holidays.
Arnold
Yeah.
Levine sat in front of me.
Yeah.
And we sat in the Asbury Methodist Church section.
Yeah.
Asbury's.
The Asbury,
Yeah.
the Asbury.
No, you're right. I just
Okay.
remember.
And it was that one little window, the furthest away, tucked in the corner. Mike was always hot, so he wanted to be by the air conditioner, and and one time they tried to move us up. They go, well, he's
Are you
all the
serious?
way in the back, so let's move the family up. We have some spaces now. We can move everybody up. Mike said, don't touch my seats.
I measured it once. It was closer to Asbury Methodist Church than it was the Bema.
You know what Mike said to me one time? Do you know why Jews sit in the back, always in the back? And I said, why? And he said, because there are no seats on the driveway.
That's all right.
Melanie, do you remember when you joined OHEB?
Well, I wish Dan could be here. He wishes
Tell
he
us
could,
Dan's
but I'll
story.
tell you his story. Yeah, even though he could tell it much better than I'm going to say. But we brought our kids up at Beth Torah, and Dan's father passed away in 2004. And Beth Torah didn't offer place to stay cottage on, I guess it was on Thursday mornings or whatever. And so that's when he thought, I'll try a place that's a little closer to us, a lot closer to us. And so he started coming.
What year was that?
And I think 2004, 2005, yeah, probably 2004. So anyway, Marvin, I was going to piggyback when you were talking about Marvin, how he just so warmly welcomed Dan, sat right next to him, showed him, because Dan grew up Reform. And for a while, I knew a lot more about Judaism than he did. At least, I shouldn't say, historically, he always knew more. But as far as liturgy, service, following the service and so forth. So Marvin really helped him follow the prayers, and, so Dan really appreciated that. He felt so welcome. And Dan always has done better with smaller groups. And that's why, you just welcomed us so nicely. We continued being associate members with Beth Torah because our son Josh was still in, I think he hadn't had his confirmation yet. But anyway, just so.
I remember
warmly
Dan
welcoming.
coming to Morning Minyan.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was at I was part of the Thursday morning menu, but he was coming every day.
And he really, and he still does. He still feels very close to everybody.
I know. He's a
Dear
great
friends of
guy.
ours at OHEV. I actually had been at OHEV years before because my grandparents,
Elaine, what?
my Aunt Elaine and Uncle Arnie were there, cousins. My cousin Dale married Brenda Silver, Marvin and Harriet's daughter, dear cousins of ours. And then my grandparents, Mary and Jules Gruber, had also been members of OHEV Shalom. So I had spent some time there years ago. And one of the memories I have is this, one of the women had this beautiful carriage, baby carriage, that was like, it was burgundy, and she would reel it up and down during the services. I don't know why that's a memory I have, but always very warm and welcoming. So anyway, I'm very happy that we found a real home at OHEV.
Yeah.
But still,
I think we all feel that way.
Well, I would just say, you know, as a person, Mike and I, we came to Kansas City, we knew no one. I mean, nobody. And so when we finally joined the synagogue, you know, it became our home. You know, and we had our friends, we had our holidays, you know, the kids had their friends, and it really became a very important spot for us to be and to become part of a synagogue family.
I think that's
And
right.
I think that happened to many other, from what I hear,
Yeah.
that happened to a lot of people sitting here and elsewhere, you know, and we were very welcomed, and it was a nice feeling, so it was good.
Yeah, we're similar. We're not from these parts. We felt not welcome from the very moment we stepped in the door.
Right.
What year did you join us?
Well, I was a member actually. You remember these days?
Yeah,
This was back
I
in
remember too.
Like
yes,
1980 or 84.
This
The
is
80s,
when we were out during Rabbi Fitzerman's
Yeah.
tenure, and there was a little. This is a little contretemps there about asbestos. It's a long story. There was a division in the synagogue, and some of the youngsters, and I was a youngster at the time, left. But that was a short time hiatus, and then I came back in with Donna. We were shul shopping. Was it before we got married?
It was before the first time that I was saying Kaddish for my dad, and in the Chronicle it said there was an early service at OHEV that Friday night. We didn't realize it was because there was a Shabbat dinner that Friday night. And Ace had told me the rabbi's name, but I didn't know. So we came in and we sat down, and we're waiting for services to start, and all of a sudden Danny walks in. I said, well, that's Danny Horowitz.
And what year was that?
That was in,
No,
it was
for-
89.
Well, fill in the gap for me. I thought he was from Oklahoma City.
He is. I was born in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And I had family in Oklahoma City, and
Okay, but I always associated you with Tulsa.
well, and I am in Tulsa.
And the BBYO groups.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. We lived in Oklahoma City until I was 4, and because we had family there, we were always kind of associated with the Jewish community, the Emmanuel community in Oklahoma City. And the library at the Hillel House at OU was named, there's a plaque in honor of Danny's father at OU. So there were lots of Oklahoma connections. So I said, that's Danny Horowitz. And so after services, I went up to say hello, and there was a Shabbat dinner. And so Ace, who hadn't been there in a few years and had left, you know, kind of under these difficult circumstances, all of a sudden we're sitting at the head table with the rabbi. So then we came the next morning, and Audrey was our walking committee. Week after week, she was so happy to see us.
She was the only one under 40.
Which seemed old at the time.
So they would come up and she would shake her hands enthusiastically. How could we say no?
And then didn't Rabbi Fitzerman, he was from Tulsa, but then he moved to.
No, he was
Tulsa.
from Detroit.
That's right, but then he's moved to Tulsa and became a
Yeah.
rabbi of your
Right,
your
right.
parents.
And that's how we met Ace.
Yeah.
He
That's right, he was
He
your.
was-
So actually, Ace and Donna Oheb.
That's right.
That's right.
We're not
He's a poster child.
Well, and from that, we had at that point, that was early on, Oheb was in some trouble then, some financial trouble.
How unusual.
I know. We were very close to going bankrupt, and we had to raise a whole bunch of money. At the time, it was $70,000. It was a lot of money at the time, and we managed to do it. And in that process, somehow or another, I came to become synagogue president. But back to Michael's.
That's right, when we joined.
Back to Michael's observation. The installation dinner, because I was I had been the team physician for the Marching Cobras, which is
that was great.
inner city marching band. And so
Fabulous.
as my little speech, I was talking about the changes in Oheb.
The drums have changed.
If you listen carefully, you can hear the drums have changed and you get a little bit of and the doors burst open in the back, and they came up, and it was
fabulous.
And here's one of my main memories from that. My memory was somehow or another they got Joey Tenenbaum up on the stage.
Well, that would be hard to do.
And Joey was dancing along with them.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us of that. That was a great experience.
So when did you join Kelly and Rob?
We moved to Kansas City in '95, and I think Donna took over your job, Audrey, and every time I came, she was like, very, very welcoming.
Because then you were the only one.
Well, when my family came out for the kids, Jake's bar mitzvah, and they were obviously very impressed, and my mom and dad had been a study group and everything else, and really loved Oheb. But my brother said, "Now I know why you joined Oheb," and I thought this is my twin brother, Steve, which is also Ace's twin brother, Steve.
Not the same Steve.
Not the same Steve. And I thought he was going to say how welcoming and everything. He goes, "No, I know why. You're a doctor, and the Misha Barak list is longer than the number of people here. Now I know why you're really joined." Thanks, Steve.
Lots of customers, was that the...
Yeah, right, exactly. Lots of customers.
Oh, I remember, speaking of which, there was one, actually this happened several times. Once at High Holidays, someone collapsed.
Fainted or something.
Yeah.
Someone collapsed, and this
yeah.
is a synagogue, right? So immediately, there were two cardiologists and an oncologist right there, right at the moment.
Yeah.
Right, David Skolnick and I.
David Skolnick took care of it.
And then Ace.
Yeah.
For a small synagogue, not bad.
Not bad.
Shabbos in the park.
Not bad.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Those were good.
Sisterhood retreats.
Yes.
I loved Sisterhood
Retreats.
That was
We
fun.
did that for a number
All
of years.
women, yeah.
It was kind
It-
of nice Friday
it
night
was.
through Sunday.
I remember
When,
at Sisterhood retreat,
no, so we had a
one thing I remember is that Shirley Ernstein would chant Haftorah because it was all women there. And I at the time loved to play taboo, and we sat up till 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning playing taboo.
It was a big slumber party.
And Phyllis brought her gun,
Yeah,
her
that's what I
rifle.
was gonna say. We had this cabin, I think the cabin belonged to B'nai Yehuda.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
they allowed us either to have it for free or very nominal
It was a
charge.
retreat center,
Right.
yeah.
And, so we had quite a crowd there.
Oh, that
And
was
then,
great.
and then somebody was nervous about being out in the country, and Phyllis Said, well, I'll bring my
Dorothy
rifle.
Catcher.
Yeah, brought her rifle.
Dorothy Catcher.
Dorothy Catcher was afraid, and Phyllis said, "Don't worry, I'll bring my rifle."
Oh, she did.
And she did.
She did.
I was hoping carrier.
She did. We have a good picture of her.
Yeah, I remember it used to be in
In fact, we gave it to
Her daughter?
Sharon. Sheila. We gave it to Sheila of her at the first retreat. Phyllis is standing there like this with a rifle.